How's everyone doing? Thank you, you incredible Dearborn. I appreciate you guys having me here. I'm always humbled and honored when people think I have something of value to say. A little housekeeping. I was not going to talk about the current football staff, but sitting at this table and you sit next to Tim, you just don't get a chance to get away from that. But let me be very, very clear about one thing. And for some reason, for those of us who listen to talk radio, for those of us who kind of pay attention, there seems to be some divisions. I don't know if some of the Michigan Mafia is present here today. If you are, I'm going to tell you whose side I'm on. It's that block in. I don't care who the coach is. I don't care what the history is. If you have equity in the program, that's what I support. I support anybody who's coaching in Michigan Stadium, support anyone who puts on that helmet, run down that tunnel and jump up, touch that band every Saturday in the fall. That's what I'm on. Are any of us happy and satisfied where the program is going? Of course not. Of course we're not. But we have to support Coach Rodriguez. We have to, because he's our coach. This is new to us, not going to bowl games. Some of us have never really experienced this, and we have to figure out how to get through that. There's an assumption where some people like, we got to get our kind of guy back in here. Our guy may not be out there. There are guys who are friends of mine from the names that everybody mentions, former quarterbacks and former assistant coaches and offensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens. You guys all know what I'm talking about. That people want to see back in here, but those guys may not come. They may not. They may say, you know what, I'm not sure what's going on in Ann Arbor, I'm fine where I am. So therefore, if we get someone else who's not a Michigan man, where are we? Because we got rid of one guy, because we ran him out. We don't know. It can get worse. We don't know. We got to support Coach Rodriguez and those players up there and get to Michigan football back to being the way Michigan football used to be. Some people do know and some people don't know, and some of you don't care, but I'll mention it anyway. I'm the father of a player, former player too. So I thought my discussion with you tonight would be my time as a Michigan player, my time as a Michigan parent, and how that kind of correlates as to what's going on now in everyone's life. Interestingly enough, coming from the east side of Detroit, I was born to go to Michigan State. Absolutely. And on the reason of that, because right behind Kettering High School, which is where I was born, I idolized the people who were playing at Kettering High School, and one was Levi Jackson, and one was Ken Jones and Lindsey Harrison. They played at my high school, Kettering High School. So everyone in my neighborhood who played Division I athletics went to Michigan State. I just didn't have any relationship, I was only a kid, you know, with the University of Michigan. And when Levi Jackson went to Michigan State, he was going into his senior year at Michigan State as I was going into my senior year in Kettering High School. And I just couldn't wait. I was going to be the next running back up there from Kettering High School. And then Kettering High School, and then Michigan State got a coach by the name of Darryl Rogers. Darryl Rogers moved Levi Jackson from halfback to fullback when Levi was less than 1,000 yards to becoming Michigan State's all-time leading rusher, breaking Eric the Flea Allen, that's what they called him, his record. And Levi was so incensed, he said, Stan, if you think anything about me, you will not go to Michigan State. So I didn't go. It was that simple. I didn't go. And I told this story to Valeni and Foster, 97 The Ticket, to all those guys. And they thought it was pretty interesting. They said, listen, had Darryl Rogers not did that to Levi Jackson, Braylon Edwards doesn't catch those 3 touchdowns against Michigan State a gazillion years later, which is probably true because he'd have probably gone to Michigan State. But Lord, am I glad I went to school in Ann Arbor. Or Dearborn, it wouldn't have mattered to me. And wearing that maize and blue was so important to me. And so when I got to Michigan, and it's interesting when you play for a legend, and at 18 years old, you don't know that he's a legend, you just know he's important. Masterful communication skills, masterful. He was a cut above. He was so special. Because what we did back in those days, a lot of people in college football are just getting caught up to now. We were so organized. We were so efficient, and we were so tough. We were so tough. I guys remember those teams. Remember, I got 3 Big Ten championship rings at home. I went to 3 Rose Bowls. Went to a Gator Bowl, and I was on the 5-year plan because I went to a public high school, so some of you guys can kind of understand that. And so going to the Rose Bowl my first year was just odd because I was fortunate enough to play in the Rose Bowl, started at 18 years old. I was petrified. Because earlier in the year, I didn't play at all. I was kind of, you know, made the travel squad. I was happy about that. And, you know, I never forget Bo's first real pregame speech. How many of you guys remember this? We played Texas A&M in Ann Arbor. They came up from College Station, and they bragged during the week how they were going to give Michigan a Texas-sized butt whooping. And Bo Schembechler was a very interesting guy. He came into the meeting room with that article in the paper, and he took it, and he took the podium and just slammed it against the wall. And he was breathing hard, and his hair was all messed up. I don't know if this was act or not, but I'm telling you what was going on. And he said, we may lose this game, but no Texas team will ever out-hit Michigan. We may get beat, we will never get out-hit. And he gave us a pregame speech. This was on Tuesday. And we were so sky high by the time game time. Now, if you remember, they had a barefooted kicker named Tony Franklin. One of the few barefoot kickers in college football. He was practicing in pregame kicking 60-yard field goals. The first half, right before halftime, the score was 0-0. He went up for a 50-yard field goal. He kicked the ball and grabbed the tee and went to the sideline without even waiting to look to see if it went in. We're going to halftime. Texas A&M 3, Michigan 0. And so I was a little bit concerned. I'm like, oh God, this, you know, Bo's going to tear us up. We're losing and all that. He went to halftime and he came back out. We got these guys figured out. The final score, who remembers the final score? I think we put about 40 on them in the second half and they didn't score at all. They had Curtis Dickey, who was like the Southeast champ, Southwest champion, sprint champ. George Woodard was a 280-pound fullback, and we beat them so bad it was a shame. Now, you fast forward to my senior year, my first senior year. Remember I had 2? You guys followed, right? It was 2 senior years. I was fortunate enough to play on Bo's first Rose Bowl winning team, and some of you guys were so happy that day, weren't you? Because we hadn't won any bowl games prior to that. But earlier that year, we played University of Illinois from Champaign-Urbana in Ann Arbor. And almost the same thing happened. They had a junior college transfer named Tony Eason, quarterback, and they had a passing attack that was out of this world. Before we looked around, the score was 21-0. And then we got lucky and scored right at halftime. And so we are kind of going up the tunnel at halftime like, oh boy, what just happened to us? The coaches have their own department in the locker room. They're away from the players. And it was quiet for a long time. And we were like, oh my God, what are they going to do? Bo came out smiling. He said, we got this passing attack figured out. We're going to have some fun. Who remembers the final score? We put 70 points on them. No, 63 points on them in the second half. It was 70-21, the final score. Now, as we're going to the Rose Bowl, we had a pretty good team. Earlier that year, we were almost considered one of the worst teams Bo Schembechler ever had. Lost to Notre Dame, lost to South Carolina, almost lost to Northwestern. We were 1-2 and not doing very good.